Let's be honest, the Blue Jays trade deadline wasn't exactly the all-in moment that we were all hoping for. They were rumored to be aggressive, but didn't land the biggest names on the trade market. That being said, the guys they still got are pretty solid. Ho, ho, ho! But the big question here is, was it enough to make them a legit World Series contender? What's up, guys, and welcome back to Blue Jays Today. In this one, we're going to look at the trades that the Blue Jays made, the ones they could have made, and ultimately, does this push them any closer to the World Series? Before we get into it though, I encourage you guys to hit that like button and smash that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any Blue Jays news and content. Alright, let's start this off with a quick recap of the moves that the Blue Jays made. They picked up flamethrower Sir Anthony Dominguez from the Phillies in exchange for their 10th ranked prospect, right-handed pitcher Deron Watts-Brown. On deadline day, they made a pretty surprising splash by trading for former Cy Young Award winner Shane Bieber, giving up top 5 prospect, right-handed pitcher Cal Steven. In a smaller move, they sent infielder Will Wagner to the Padres for a minor league catcher Brandon Valenzuela. And in the final minutes of the deadline, they added another power arm, Louis Varland, and infielder Ty France, in exchange for outfielder Alan Roden and a top 5 prospect left-handed pitcher Kendrys Rojas. Heading into the trade deadline, the need was pretty obvious. They needed bullpen help, preferably 2 to 3 arms, some with some high velo, some with closing experience, and maybe an 8th or 7th inning guy. They also needed to get another starter, preferably somebody with some upside to pitch in a postseason game, and possibly pick up a bat who's got some thump. Now, let's talk about the bats, because I know that's always the big all-in move, to go out and acquire a guy that's head and tails above anybody else in your lineup that really elevates your ceiling as a team. Now, they could have went out and got Eugenio Suarez or Steven Kwan. Those were kind of the big bats available on the deadline. But it appeared that Steven Kwan's price was just a bit too high, and ultimately, he wasn't actually traded this deadline. And Eugenio Suarez went for a decent price for a 2-month rental, but the Blue Jays ultimately felt that it wasn't necessary to trade for these pieces. Heading into the trade deadline, they ranked 1st in batting average, 1st in on-base percentage, 6th in OPS, and 7th in runs scored. So offense wasn't the issue. It's the pitching that has been the Achilles heel for the Blue Jays this season. Heading into the deadline, the Blue Jays pitching staff ranked 22nd in all of baseball with a 4.27 ERA. And if this Blue Jays team really wants a chance to make a run at the World Series, you're gonna have to give your team a chance to win by shutting down the opponent's bats. I know, crazy theory, right? So instead of chasing pricey bats, they decided to put their prospect capital into the arms. Dominguez and Varland absolutely throw gas. They both have fastball velos in the 94th and 95th percentile. They also bring nasty swing and miss stuff and can lock down an inning. Dominguez's K rate is in the 94th percentile in all of baseball, and Louis Varland's whip is at a 1.1 and an ERA of 2.02. And here's the kicker with Varland. He's 27 and he's locked down with the Blue Jays until 2031. And they're already joining a strong group of arms in the bullpen that include Jeff Hoffman, Yariel Rodriguez, Brendan Little, Braden Fisher, and when you get guys like Jimmy Garcia and Nick Sandlin back, this bullpen could quietly be one of the best in the American League. Next, let's talk about Shane Bieber. He's definitely a wild card. He's coming off of Tommy John surgery, but when he's healthy, he's got some of the nastiest stuff in all of baseball. He's got a career ERA of 3.22, a whip of 1.11, and a strikeout per 9 of 10.2. And when Bieber was healthy and in his Cy Young year, you saw that strikeout per 9 rate climb up to 14.2. And in his recent rehab starts with the Cleveland Guardians minor league system, you saw that strikeout potential come through. In just 11 1/3 innings, he struck out 21 batters. Now I know it's just a rehab start, but that's a good sign that Bieber's feeling pretty healthy. And if Bieber's able to recapture what he can do at his best, then don't be surprised if he starts game 1 or 2 for the Blue Jays in the playoffs. And finally, let's talk about Ty France. At first glance, it just looks like a throw-in piece in the Louis Varland trade, but since the All-Star break, the numbers haven't looked too bad. He's batting .286 with an OPS of 805. Now, he's not the power bat that we all preferred. I think we can all agree on that, but he does provide some upside in terms of defense. Down the stretch, if Vladdy needs a day off, you can absolutely feel confident putting Ty France over there at first base, as he ranks in the 95th percentile in outs above average. Overall, I'd call this a solid deadline. The Jays clearly addressed their needs, and no, they didn't go all in like we were all expecting, but honestly, I don't think they needed to. The team's roster is already strong, and they just needed a few more pieces to really push them over the top. And they did all that while holding on to their 2 top 100 prospects, which also isn't a bad thing. So the truth, I'd give the Blue Jays a B. So what do you guys think? Does this push the Blue Jays over the top and give them a chance at a legit World Series run? Or do you think that their AL opponents did a little bit more and they might be a scarier threat to make a World Series run? Thank you so much for watching, guys, and as always, go Jays go!